Responsibility there. No, it's good. It's good to meet. It's good to be together. It would have been nice to meet in Palmonage, but I started the first session also by saying, but it's very comfortable to meet at home. You don't have to go anywhere. It's good for the environment. If there is a siren, you probably have a place to go. You don't need to awkwardly sitting with a lot of people, very cramped somewhere. So I think it was a good decision to do it on Zoom. So Irit has that very heavy responsibility of course, with the board, I guess, whether it is on Zoom or whether it's happening on, directly. Did you decide yet anything about Yom Kippur yet or not? We'll see how it works.
No, not yet. I don't know. I don't know what to decide.
Yeah, flip a coin.
It's very complicated.
Yeah, it's very complicated. It definitely is very complicated. But still, and then this will be the next section in the 7 limbs, or the 7 sections, is rejoicing. So I think we have quite a lot of psychologists around here in this, usually in Israel. A lot of psychologists are participating, so neuroscientists and all these kind of people, that one can change. It's not just thought, it's also chemicals and neurons and I don't know what. I don't like to talk about neuroplasticity so much because I don't know much about it. So if I say something that is kind of wrong, please go ahead and correct me. But I find it very interesting, and I find it very encouraging also that also all this can happen without any religion, actually, that just by applying the methods. But then again, I think it's the same thing, isn't it? It's not a miracle thing. You have to apply it again and again and again and again and again to change the habits. And first you need to know which kind of habits you want to change, and you need to be able to look at them. I think in psychology it's the same thing, isn't it? You have to be able to look at them without judging, without getting tense, without, rejecting stuff and things like that, isn't it? Is it like that? I went into psychotherapy for 2 or 3 years almost before I became a Buddhist. So it's not Buddhist that really saved my life. It is a psychologist. Who was a Zen Buddhist. I wasn't a Buddhist, and he had a PhD in theology. So he had Christianity and Buddhism, and it was really, really good. So his method was that he was putting me under some kind of, it wasn't hypnosis. I was there, but the mind would go, a very active mind. So the mind would go into all kinds of stories and scenarios and things like that, and that made me understand a lot about myself, and also make me really accept the way I am, because what I saw seemed to come from a past life. Maybe yes, maybe not, I don't know. Main thing is that it really helped, and it helped me make the step back into life, because I really wanted to commit suicide, because I was an alcoholic and I gave up drinking, and then life became very difficult without all this, things that calm you down. And then I knew I had to do something. Either I kill myself, which I didn't want to do because my dad, I thought that's not fair, because otherwise he feels too bad about this whole thing. I would have loved just to have an accident, fall down the steps, and that's it, break my neck, and I finished. But it didn't happen. Or I go and seek help. So I'm very grateful for that person. So don't think, just in case you're new to Buddhism and you heard about Buddhism and you think, oh, I practice Buddhism, then it will solve all my problems. Well, it will not. Yeah, it's very good to seek the help of somebody who can build you up in a way so that you can look at your mind and that it's not too heavy. So his skillful means, or maybe, I don't know, the skillful means of my mind, it was all kind of fantasy stuff. It was either cartoons, Walt Disney cartoons with Pinocchio and Bambi, or it was, middle age with knights and this and that, a bit like the Lord of the Rings that I saw, and I would just talk what I saw, and he really said he really had a good time to listen to all my stories. And I don't know exactly how it helped. It's a bit like, it's a bit like Buddhism. You cannot say, if you do purification practices, you cannot say, this is how it works and this is how it helps. But it helped. He didn't do much. He was just listening, and I was just telling all my stories about having to overcome obstacles and these kind of things. And all of a sudden, I thought, I don't need to go anymore. And he said, yeah, that's what I think. You don't need to come anymore. And that was it. And I left Switzerland. I left a very comfortable kind of life with lots of money. And I went totally free, kind of without any plans to the South Pacific. When I told my best friend that I was going to do that, she said, what, you? And because I was always full of fear, and this is why I drank. Yeah, so I needed to first understand that this fear of so many things is part of me, and it's okay. I can befriend it, and if it's there, it's there. If it's not there, fantastic. But if it's there, it's no big deal. I can still do the things I need to do. And then, of course, with the Buddhist practice, it became, I became more open and more this and more that, more accepting towards I am. And I think I was just listening to Tsongsa Khyentse Rinpoche the other day about how to pray to Padmasambhava, or how to do these practices, these prayers, or either it was there or, I think it was there. And where he also said, we really have to start to be, it sounds contradicting, I know, we want to become fully awakened, but then we have to start by being happy with the way we are and not having to think that we need to do this or look like this or be like this or having this kind of diplomas or this kind of success. To feel good about ourselves. I mean, again, it's not, you don't feel good about yourself, you go around hurting others. It's good also to do something. So it all depends. I think in Buddhism, there's no such thing that is just black and white. This is good and this is not good. At times, one has to be accepting that, okay, I'm not perfect. And I do hurt others with my words or with my behavior, with my selfishness especially. And at other times, it's also good to see also that we're doing a lot of good things. So you kind of, as Lama Yeshe said, you kind of become your own therapist. You know what to apply when. And I think the most difficult thing in Buddhism is you're the only witness. You're the only one who really knows. And one has to, with more and more, one is able to become very honest about oneself and not having to hide things anymore and being able to look at it, and then they can heal. So sometimes, I haven't done it for a long time, but a while ago, a few years ago, I think during Corona, I was listening to Rick Hansen quite a lot. He is a neuroscientist, and he uses all these, neurons and fire and higher and this and, all these kind of expressions. And I find him really good. I still do, but I stopped kind of listening. But he says, there's a few things that kind of sticks to the mind, where he says, things cannot heal if you don't touch them, like in the mind. And it's the same as if we have a wound. Well, sometimes it does heal by themselves, but very often we have to do something about this. And then also with the neurons, how does it go? What wires together, then fires together, isn't it? Something like that. So we have these, I need help here. Psychologist people, neuroscientists, or shall I find the text? Maybe I should find the text somewhere. That this is the good news from their side, from the scientific side, that we can change habits, and we can strengthen our, the sides that you want to strengthen. So if you want to become more angry, because sometimes people come and tell me, well, I don't know, I never really get angry. So yeah, of course, then just rejoice. I mean, what do you want to do? You want to train to become more angry? Then Buddhism is not, spiritual practice is not the right place for you. Then you need to go to some martial arts, which they don't work with anger, by the way. I don't want to kind of make you think things that are not right. But if we start to understand that, if we start to understand that we do have the potential to be more the way we actually would like to be, and then we have to find some methods. It will not just happen by itself, and that is more difficult thing, because we have to put time. It takes time, and we have to stay with it. Right? So how did you spend your lunch break with the guilty mind? Yeah, was it okay? I hope you didn't get indigestion thinking about the negativities, but it's good to think about them from time to time, even though it's not pleasant. But again, there is how many people? There's 66 people. I don't know how many of these 66 people I should really tell them it's good to look at the negative sides of your mind. I don't know. It might be totally the wrong thing to say at that moment to that person. Yeah, this is why also I kind of like small groups, and I like to do things with people that I know, so then I know where they're at. Because sometimes I also think, that psychologists, psychotherapists, psychoanalysts, what else is there? Psychiatrists, I think you're very brave people. To go and work with minds of others is like, wow, I think you need a lot of courage. I would be, because also I haven't studied it. So I would be, I think, too frightened. So the good thing is, if the group is big, usually, people don't take it so personal. So that's whatever I'm saying. So that's probably the good thing. But yeah, to really understand that we could be better, first we have to look, kind of what is wrong. Always keeping in mind that we have Buddha potential. Now for us Westerners, when, we hear that we have to be a certain way, you have to kind of prove yourself, this and that, the competition, and all this, I mean, this is the system that we more or less grow up in, which is, nobody talks about how to have a happy mind, or again, let's not use the word happy, nobody, or did you learn in school how to relax, how to have a mind that is spacious and open? Did you learn that actually at the basis you're good, but then this is very often covered, and then the negative sides come up? Or like Rachel was saying, she sees the shadow. I think it's Jungian, isn't it? The thing with the shadow. We had a very good psychoanalyst in Bern, that he was also giving Buddhist teachings, and he wrote this book about the dark sister or the dark brother. And also one sentence that really is stuck into my mind and is really, really helpful is like, your negative sides, or, these emotions that kind of plague us, the afflictions, they are not you, but you have them. So you have this kind of good mixture of not to identify with it, but knowing that you have to take care of it, that you cannot blame somebody else. And for me, that was very helpful to hear that at one point. Just when we start to identify, and the ego, we say the ego goes down, but actually the ego blows up, right? When we see our negative sides and we don't want to have them, and we fight against them and all this, then, we say the ego becomes very weak. No, the ego becomes very strong. I tell you, the weaker your ego, the better you are. The less it takes space, the more these positive qualities can grow. But I think also maybe some part of psychotherapy or psychoanalysis or whatever, but again, I might be wrong, is trying to work with this ego, isn't it? Trying to make it happy, trying to make it strong, trying to make, I don't know what with it. And but then in Buddhism, you learn that, it kind of manifests in a certain way, but it doesn't exist the way that it manifests, and it's the troublemaker. And knowing that it is just a thought, it's nothing concrete, it's nothing existing there findable. So again, for some people that might help, for other people doesn't help at all. I know people who were borderline who came to me and said, I think I realized emptiness because I don't feel myself anymore. So I thought, this is even worse, right? So again, there is so many methods, and so you have to find one that works but is not too dangerous, because sometimes, just looking at the mind and just letting everything arise is, I read that. Anyway, everything I say, I probably read it somewhere or heard it somewhere, so nothing is from me, yeah? So I read or heard somewhere, is like really sitting in retreat and doing mindfulness meditation or vipassana and looking at your mind and allowing everything to arise is like having an operation without an anesthesia, I think you say in English. It's a bit like this. Sometimes it's very, very painful. Yeah. So in order to be able to do that, you need to have a healthy sense of yourself that, hey, I can do better than that. And it can be detrimental for somebody to hear this happening to you because your mind stream at one point created the karma and all this. For them, it might be totally, when they have very low self-esteem, then it might even be, instead of helping, it's probably worse. Because Asian people who are growing up in Buddhist countries, they grow up with this view that actually I'm okay. This okayness is just covered by wrong views. And so wrong views can be exchanged with right views. And we in the West, I think, in order to feel good about ourselves, first we need to show something, isn't it? No? Either by our looks, by our skills, diplomas, money, what else? Intelligence. Wow, intelligence is like, the top thing here. Intelligence can be trained. There's no big deal. And it doesn't mean because you're intelligent that you're skillful in your life and you're happy and you're kind to others. But it's so valued, isn't it? Intelligence. Whereas, somebody says, yeah, well, he has a good heart, he's very kind, but, not so intelligent. It seems as if it's, there's something wrong with that person because he's just having a good heart and he's very kind. Come on. I mean, we should really start to value that much more, because intelligence, wow, you can manipulate people, you can invent all kinds of weapons and bombs and strategies, how to destroy and all these kind of things. Intelligence can also be used to heal and to make people happier, but it's no guarantee to have a kind of well-lived life. Whereas, but it can also be, if intelligence is used with a good heart, with love and compassion, nothing can go wrong, right? So this is why also when we talk about spiritual practice in Buddhism, they always talk about the two wings, like the wing of wisdom, but the wisdom is kind of what brings happiness or well-being and what brings suffering, this kind of wisdom, not all kinds of other things. And then, of course, compassion. So if it's only wisdom and you only study about emptiness, how things exist and all this, I think your heart becomes quite dry. This is what Geshe Sherab says, and I think it's true. You become very proud of all these arguments and the discussions, and you can quote all the scholars from, Indian scholars, Tibetan scholars, and all these kind of things. It doesn't have to be, but it can happen very quickly. And then it becomes quite dry. If it's only compassion without the wisdom of emptiness, you get overwhelmed. Because if you just look at the suffering and you want to help and your heart is full of compassion, it's just too much. And it can be also quite naive, right? So this is why, one cannot just run out and start helping others. First, we have to look after ourselves. make sure our mind is kind of in a good state, our heart is open, we are spacious, we can take failure as a stepping stone to learn more. We don't have to succeed all the time. But again, this goes against our habits. This is very difficult. This is definitely not easy, isn't it? We were having a discussion the other day with people who run Dharma centers or have run Dharma centers, is kind of, why is there disharmony sometimes? So like the biggest, how to say, the most a kind of immediate cause for disharmony is one doesn't say what needs to be said. So it's because one is afraid to hurt or harm the other person. It was very interesting to see that we all said the same thing. Because we don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, and because we think, well, they will not understand it, and maybe they don't like me anymore. That also comes in account. But the main thing was because we don't want to hurt the other person, and then tensions develop, right? And we think, we think I have said something because I'm thinking it all the time, what is wrong, but I'm not really saying it. And then the tensions get bigger and bigger, and then finally there is disharmony, and it's very difficult to work together. But and then I said, yeah, I know that things need to be said sometimes that need to be said, and it's not pleasant for the other person to hear. But I can see, I can say these things if I have the responsibility to say them. Because if I don't have the responsibility, I don't have to say anything. It's not my responsibility. Sometimes we think, oh, I have to do something. I'm not the Dharma police. It's okay. People can find out themselves, or whoever has the authority to say something, then it's up to them. But then even they don't, and me same. Even I didn't. When I was kind of, leading the center in Bern. So I said, well, yeah, very often I knew what I would have to say, but if I just have a smiling face and I make my words very sweet, but inside the heart is not open, it doesn't go well. It's not enough just to be kind and skillful and all this. I have to, if I say something unpleasant to somebody, I have to make sure there's no aversion towards the person, or, maybe towards the action, okay, but not towards the person. And that's incredibly difficult when there is disharmony and when there is problems. Those people who are leading Dharma groups, have you seen that? Would you agree to that very often disharmony can develop because things are not said that need to be said, that are hard to hear? And this is not just Dharma groups, by the way. This goes for families, this goes for workplaces, this goes for many other places, but it is difficult to have that role, having to say what needs to be said. So from my side, I noticed very quickly, if I'm not okay with the person itself, better I shut up. It does less damage not to say it than to say it with a closed heart. And slowly, but from the distance, then work to open up the heart and then maybe say something. And we have a very, I really didn't want to go there, but maybe it's good to hear also, because there is so much disharmony in the world at the moment. There are so many different opinions and polarizations and this and that. We want the other person to agree with us and all this. Between monks and nuns, there is this thing after the rainy season that one can say only after the rainy season, because rainy season is 3 months retreat. So after 3 months retreat, your mind should be quite pure and your heart should be quite pure. So there's this thing that one gets together and one can say, I have seen, I have heard, or I suspect that blah, 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 blah. But if it is, but you also add, do you want to hear it to that person that you need to say that? So that is very skillful. So the person already knows, there is something, but maybe not in a good state at the moment. Better not now, maybe later. This is very skillful because we blurt out our opinion, or about the other without even asking the other person, do you want to hear it? The same thing with our well-meant advice, me with the hearing aid and the brain training and all these kind of things. I don't want to hear it because I don't want to do it. So I'm much better off not to hear it, because otherwise I feel one corner of the mind guilty that I'm not doing anything about it, right? I don't have to be on top of everything and feel young and dynamic, blah, blah, until I die. Why? It's good for me, the practice is to start to accept old age and the limitations and all this, and it's okay. But it's not okay for other people. Very often I feel it. This is why then the well-meant advice, and sometimes I stop them and say, look, I didn't ask you what I should do. You asked me how I was telling you, and that's it. So, yeah. So like that. Okay. So the confession, very powerful, very, very liberating, actually, But as David was asking, going to confess to the person that you hurt, me personally, I don't think it's skillful. I don't think so. It's much better to confess to the Buddhas. This is, and what do we do when we confess to the Buddhas? We confess it to ourselves, and then we can be totally honest and say, this was totally wrong. We don't need to kind of, yeah, I know that I hurt you, but I wasn't, I wasn't feeling well, or wasn't this, we find a lot of excuses, and then kind of, again, we give ourselves the permission to act like this. If you have the Buddhas or any other, object of refuge, you can be totally open, because, they have confession, they have compassion, they hear you. Netta Dvir, did you want to say? I saw you take a deep breath.
About this point, I want to ask, because sometimes when someone is hurt, it's very, very helpful if someone acknowledge the wrong thing that happened. And it's very helpful for the other person to get over it. He feels that there's order in this world, and that there's harm stuff that happened, and the acknowledgement is really important, I think, sometimes.
It's probably what psychology says, isn't it?
For my own experience, I'm also a person, not only a psychologist. And sometimes
it's good. I prefer when you talk about personal experiences.
Yes. I'm talking about my experience, yes. The acknowledgement, yes.
Yeah, maybe because I haven't been hurt enough, that I don't know that I wouldn't need it. It's like, and I see it when, because I tried to apologize, or I tried to go and say 2 or 3 times, and it went totally wrong with the other person. They totally used it against me. And then, it was in a Dharma group, of course, where I have to discipline people and this and that. And then they were then using it and saying, oh, you don't allow me to do that because you don't like me. It's like, oh, so then it's like, this is what I'm saying. I'm talking about my personal experience. I have not been hurt enough that somebody needs to come to apologize to me. It's perfectly okay. So I don't have that experience of waiting somebody to come. But I know that I have kind of hurt people. And I went to say, for example, what I said, I would still say it, but I was angry, so I shouldn't have said it in that way. And whoosh, the whole thing was used as a weapon against me. You were such an angry person, and blah, 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 and this, So that's what I mean. But yes, well, again, look at your own experience. Look at your own experience, the experience that you have made. Is it possible for you to be able to let go of having been hurt, thinking about, now in Buddhist terms, thinking about karma, thinking about what the other person has to go through, understanding that when I hurt somebody, while I'm doing it, I am not doing it with the motivation of hurting that person. I'm doing it because I'm angry. And when I'm angry, I'm not in my right mind. And then being able to turn it around and thinking, oh, the other person also probably, they don't have control over their mind. They didn't plan it. They didn't do it on purpose. Would that help to think like that? Because otherwise, you see, if we think I need this person to come and tell me that they understand that they hurt me and all this, we become totally dependent on the other person. So I think really not such a bad thing to find ways and means to be able to let go without the other person having to come and say, hey, I hurt you. Now, also, I have to say, I'm not living in a couple. So I don't know.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure. Who is who?
It's
Okay.
Maybe it depends also how we know the other person, how he will accept my apology, for example.
Yeah.
And because I have an experience of also when somebody asks my apologize towards me, it's as if I appreciate that he saw me. He saw the point, he saw the situation. And the other way around, when I apologize, I remember when I'm talking about it, I think of a certain thing. So this woman said, okay, I see that you take responsibility. And I didn't think I was doing wrong, but I knew that I hurt her. So this was the point, that I caused her to suffer, although I thought I was right. Still, I wanted to say, I'm sorry, I know that I hurt you. And it worked.
Okay. Yeah, it's very important, as you say, knowing the other person, maybe also finding the right moment and things like that. I'm just saying it's very tricky. I hope you don't hear me saying you should not go and apologize. I'm just saying go without any expectations. This is what I'm saying. But we do have usually expectations when we go and apologize, isn't it? Or we don't. That before we go and say the words, in the mind, thinking, I allow you to say whatever you want to say to me. If we have that, yeah, fine, And again, the more your mind is open, the more your heart is open, the more your mind is open, the more serious you are. And you're not just going so that you feel better, which is very often the case also, because you want the other person to forgive you and all this. Anyway, we'll talk about this Yom Kippur, actually. This is usually what we discuss during Yom Kippur, how to forgive, how to apologize, and all these kinds of things. The best thing is, like, again, as a spiritual practitioner, a good thing is to find ways and means, of course, to give the other person the opportunity to come and apologize if they want, because that's another thing. Like same as others sometimes use it against us when we have hurt them, we do the same thing. We're kind of holding the arrow in our sleeve to shoot back at one point. And we feel it's justified because we're the victim, isn't it? And we actually, as the aggressor, sometimes we allow the victim to shoot a few arrows back because we know that we have harmed the person. But then the big question is, when does the victim stop to be the victim and becomes the aggressor? This is the big question. Complicated. It's very complicated. So again, we come down to the same thing. Best thing is to take care of our own mind and see what's going on, because the only mind I can really more or less know is my own. What other people feel, think, and all this maybe then when I'm a Buddha, but in the meantime, I don't really know. There is a hand there from a Hebrew person, which I can't say your name.
It's me, Liora, also Liora.
Also Liora, okay. Good. Liora, what would you like to say?
I wanted to ask you, in South Africa, there were reconciliation committees, and part of that was confession.
Yeah.
And it got better because of it. It was a successful process.
All right.
So how do you see it?
Yeah, of course. But it was done in a group, it was as an official thing and all this, so it was done in a safe environment, right? So, I'm absolutely not saying, I hope you hear the importance of confession it's really important because we acknowledge that we have something wrong. If I confess to the Buddhas or to my master, that is a safe way to do it, right? If we do it in a reconciliation process, is also a safe way to do it. If we go and do it with an individual person, we have to be open to receive whatever reaction will come from the other person, which might be hurting us back, wanting to hurt us back because they still hurt so much. But I think there is, like many times in our life and every night, there's no such thing, this is good and this is bad, right? So the more we understand our own mind, the more we can open up the heart to our mind, the more we can become spacious. And, see it as anyway, what I sometimes do when the situation is very difficult. Actually, it's not true. I have been hurt at one point, it's true. But I've been treated in a really bad way twice. See, I already forgot. So it's only now it's coming back. And I can really laugh about it. And what I did, because I couldn't get out of the situation, also I didn't want to get out, but I thought, okay, this is just a movie, So I have this role of this nun who is supposed to work here and do her job, but is constantly boycotted. And so how do I want to react to that? And that really helped. It really helped to say, oh, I don't want to be the nun who's complaining all the time and who's impatient and all this. And it really helped me to take it in a light way. Now, this is verbal abuse, okay? It's not physical abuse. If it would have been physical abuse, I would not have stayed there and said, oh, this is just a movie, right? So do you see what I mean? If we can see our role in this whole thing, and you see, the more you think you've been hurt, and the more you mull on it and this and that and wallow in it, the more it's difficult to let go. The more we see it as a ripening of karma, because the way I was treated, I also all of a sudden saw, like Rachel was saying before, I think, I also saw that sometimes I treat other people like this, maybe not over such a length of time, but sometimes, right? So it's always good to see that I'm doing the same thing. But there's much more that can be said. If you want to discuss this more, please come to, if it's happening in Steboker, please come to Steboker, beautiful place. David Gordon is kind of the co-teacher, which is, I'm kind of shoving it more and more and more into his hands, which he has very able hands to do these things. So, and that's where we then discuss these things at length. And it's always good to exchange experiences. So I'm happy that you kind of, Netadria said, yeah, but I think it's really good and da-da-da-da. I'm happy that you don't agree with me. So then we can see there's many, many different sides to look at this. Sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like that. Yeah? Okay.
Thank you.
Then, so the next section is rejoicing, right? So when the mind is a bit down and we have to look at our not such beautiful mind or state or being or character or whatever, then we need to bring it up again. Yeah. So we need to look. Can you see now how skillful it is? The first part is to appreciate our own kind of pure nature of the mind, and to have somebody who is living it and who has developed it. So the confidence. Second part is to create positive karma in order to be able then to go further. We need a lot of, by making offerings or by making the mind happy. Yeah, referently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. You can use other words, It doesn't have to be to the Buddhas or whatever. Or to say, referently I appreciate and respect all the beings who have been helpful to me, if you don't believe in any transcendental or whatever. I present clouds of every type of offerings, actual and imagined. What did it do to you when you were offering these flowers to the people that we appreciate? Did it do something, even though you didn't have the bunch of flowers? No? You're not creative enough. You're too materialistic when you think that in order to be happy, you have to offer a real bunch of flowers. Nobody had any effect. You can say, no, I don't have any effect. Then at least I know.
I felt
opened
open our
the
heart.
heart. Yes.
One after the other. Netta?
I say that it opened the heart. It was like, and it's free giving all these.
It's free. Maybe I should sell this advice, so then it's not free anymore. Huti?
And then we will enjoy.
Huti? Did you hold up your hand, or did you want to say something? No. Okay. Anybody else?
I'm without a camera, it's Rakefet, and I love giving out flowers.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I love giving out flowers. I find myself planting them all over the streets of Yafo and giving them to everybody around, and it makes me very happy.
Yeah, it's such a simple thing. And then we go out of the house. We go out of the house with a stronger mind to face what's going on at the moment than if we go already closed heart and all this. Yeah. So it's just one method, very simple method that you might use at any time you want, right? So that's the second section. It's like making the mind strong, making the mind, as Netta was saying, open. Connecting with others, also wanting to do something good to others, wanting to make them happy. So and then we see something in the street, and boom, the heart closes again, but it doesn't matter. We can do again and again and again, train this neuroplasticity kind of wiring and firing together so that then it stays, that these connections then stay. Right, and then the mind is up, and then we think about our negative sides, which is also necessary, but it's not coming at the beginning. Yeah, I think also Rick Hansen is saying that our minds, when it comes to negative experiences, act like Velcro. When it comes to positive experiences, act like Teflon. Can you relate to that?
What was the first word? I didn't understand.
Velcro is when you have something to close, it goes, you don't need two buttons or tie. That's Velcro, when you have two sides that just stick together. How do you call it in Hebrew?
Scotch, I think. Scotch, no?
No, it's not Scotch. It's, shoes, for example, my shoes that I wear in the street, it has Velcro.
In Hebrew, it's Scotch.
The same word.
You call it Scotch? Okay.
No, Velcro. It's you call it like this. I looked it up once, but.
Okay. So then, when it comes down to negative experiences, our mind is acting like Velcro. Kind of, you touch it, it sticks. It sticks to something else. When it comes to positive experiences, an untrained mind, it's not like every mind. Also, don't take it too personally. When you see that it doesn't apply to you, then just be happy that it doesn't apply to you. But to an ordinary mind, when it comes to positive experiences, the mind is acting like Teflon, non-stick pans, right? It kind of comes, okay, and that's it. So we don't really appreciate, we don't really know how to rejoice. Like there's also, I think, maybe I'll find it and maybe we do the meditation. It's called Taking in the Good by Rick Hansen, where we very consciously think about all the good things that we have. Just everybody has the microphone open, and since I'm not co-host, I cannot shut them up. So this is what's very funny also, because most of the things I do on Zoom is my link. So I have total control over everybody. And in the first session, somebody didn't have the microphone closed. And I tried to close it. I couldn't close it. I thought, what's going on? You know, why can't I close the microphone? Then I remember it's not my link. I have no control. So that was very funny. See, this is what I mean. This is mind training. Even those little things, you catch them. You laugh about them. Say, how silly, you know, you can't close somebody's microphone. What's the big deal? You can say, please close your microphone. So things like that. So this is my spiritual practice, to catch the little things and then not to let them become Velcro so that they stick, right? And not to kind of say, oh, can I please be co-host? It's okay. I'm not co-host. I don't need to be co-host. So rejoicing. So we don't really know how to rejoice. You see, I mean, it's the same thing. Every time you go out of the house in the morning, and I use this example here in Israel many times and in many other parts of the world. We go out of the house. Maybe in Israel now it's really changed, but in general, we do not expect that somebody has stolen our car, or that the car is scratched, or somebody is spitting at us, or somebody is stealing our wallet, or that we get cheated and all this. You know, sometimes in Israel, people say, oh yeah, we do expect it. But if you would expect it, you wouldn't get upset when it happens. That you get upset when it happens, it means you have expectations that it doesn't happen, you know? Otherwise, it's like, yeah, it can happen maybe more often here than in other places, but we still don't expect it consciously. I mean, really consciously. And then when we come home in the evening after a full day, we're not really appreciating. Nobody stole my car, nobody scratched it, nobody stole my wallet, nobody spit at me, nobody insulted me. I didn't hurt anybody. There's also something that we can rejoice. I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. You know, very consciously rejoice that actually things went quite well together. Do we ever do that? Spontaneously. Do we ever kind of really become aware? I know that your situation is very difficult. And I know that it seems hopeless. Don't forget impermanence. Things change. You know, also we won't be here forever and ever and ever. That can be quite comforting to think at one point I will die, and then this situation, I don't need to do anything about the situation anymore. I can leave it behind me. Can be quite comforting. Which doesn't mean you should bring your death forward, by the way. So please, again, don't misunderstand me. But we are full of these expectations, and then we don't rejoice when it doesn't happen. So we miss a lot of opportunities to be able to rejoice. When I was on the 7th of October and a few days after, I was in near Nahariya. We were doing Nunes. And, you know, I was thinking, okay, are you ready to die? So then one thing is, yeah, dying is kind of would be okay. Being hostage or being injured, not so much okay. But the first thought I had was like, gosh, I had such a good life, you know, and forgetting all the things that were not good. I forgot them, they're not there anymore. Really changing what is Teflon and what is Velcro. And I had such a good life. I can go, it's fine. You know, not, oh, but my life is so good, I want to stay a bit longer. That was just my spontaneous thought. So for you also very good to see that if I would have to die now, today, you know, in what kind of mind state would I go? So if it still will hold, I don't know, you know, if I will be able to die like that. But it was such a comforting feeling. I had such a good life. You know, I know so many people have been so good to me. How wonderful. And that was it. And I relaxed. Yeah. So we don't need to be in front of death to think like this. We can rejoice about the good things that we have done also, and other people have been doing to us. For example, again, it's just an example of a practice that you could take up. from time to time, just to think, I'm so fortunate. Instead of, all the things that are not going good, and there's a lot of things that are not going good. I do agree with you. But then again, if we look before this 7th of October, I mean, I've been coming to Israel since 2000. Were we really that happier? I don't expect an answer here. I'm just inviting you to look at this. Did I really not have also big problems? Did I not really have also anxiety and this and that, and feel hopeless and useless sometimes? And just look at it. Just you don't need to give yourself an answer, but just to look at it. And if, we go like, oh, when there's peace and finally we're able to live together, do you really think that all your problems are going to be finished? They're not. We're still in samsara. We still have a mind which is under the control of wrong views. Right? Adriana, what would you like to say?
Just that for me, rejoicing is going together with gratitude. Mm-hmm. Like, appreciate what I do have. Like you said, you had a wonderful life. So it's the feeling I should embrace like every day, and it's regardless what is happening outside, because I really appreciate all the good things I have, and how lucky I am that I have what I have, and be like thankful for for my life. Right. And it goes together, like same for me, rejoicing and being thankful.
Yeah. Well, rejoicing, both of it brings joy, kind of thing, isn't it? And there is a meditation which the ones who are Buddhist, you are familiar with it, which is called Precious Human Rebirth. Yeah, where you don't really think about all the good things that you have. And it's very skillful again, I find. You think how it would be if you wouldn't have it. You see, when we are depressed, usually our mind goes what we want. And there's this saying, I don't know if it's maybe by Nietzsche or by somebody who, you see, this is, before I would know by whom it is now, I just remember the quotes. It says like, the people are not content with what they have, they will also not be content when they have what they want. Right? So this is so true. I mean, Nietzsche is not a Buddhist. Maybe he was, I don't know. No, he was not. But anyway, it's like, this is what we have to see. Our mind fantasizes when this is happening and when that is finished and this and this and it, I will be very happy. But it's not so. But then we get depressed about not having it. Yeah. Whereas if we look at how the situation would be worse than what it is, because it could be worse, right? Then all of a sudden we start to relax a little bit. I'm not saying you shouldn't do anything about difficult situations. If you can do something, kind of, actively, by all means do. But if there's nothing you can do, you just kind of go into despair, isn't it? Which, again, I don't blame you for having despair from time to time or all the time, I don't know, because the situation is very difficult. I mean, I don't have to tell you, you know better than me, isn't it? So like that. So the kind of the meditation or the reflection goes like this, okay? Like, for example, the body, and the body is not so well, then we think, okay, I have a lot of body pain, but in what way could it be worse? Like, I could have no access to medical care, I could have no friends who are helping me, I would have no shelter, I could be homeless, I could be addict, and all these kinds of things. Do you see the method, how it goes, right? Or sometimes, you go to a restaurant, very expensive, you order something, it's not exactly what you expected, and then you start to think about how much it cost and your expectations and all this, then you go, yeah, but it's either this food or no food. Yeah, then every food becomes okay when it's the choice between this food or no food. Yeah, so that's another thing. And how would it be if we had minds that are very violent, that don't want to have peace with the neighbors, that only want to destroy them and this and that? So then we can think, yeah, people have these kinds of minds, but not me. Now, this is not to judge them, but this is to feel happy that still you have a mind that is, I think, interested in living peacefully and sharing this lovely place on this planet with people from other cultures and other nationalities and other religions, for example. Yeah, do you get the idea? When you look at all the things you have, when you look at all the good things you have, and you expect these thoughts to make you happy and grateful, very often it won't work, because it makes you feel guilty that you are not happy. Yeah, like quite often people come to see me and say, I know I should be happy because I have this, but those are all worldly things, healthy body, a lot of money, many friends, good job, and all this. And they say, but I'm not, so what am I doing wrong? Because all these things, they are not the cause for well-being and happiness. The cause for well-being and happiness is ethical conduct, generosity, humor, bodhicitta, of course, These are the causes for joy. Joy doesn't come just like that. Joy also has causes. So, if we want to we wait with being grateful until we are joyful, then it's the other way around. So, when Adriana says, for me, it's the same thing, I don't think it's exactly the same thing. It's like understanding all the good things we have in life and really appreciating them and knowing that, not taking them for granted, then this will lead to a state of joy, right? So it's very much connected, but I think it's not exactly the same thing. Zohar, what would you like to say?
I think David was before me. He's been waiting for a while.
Okay, David, where
Thank
is
you.
David? Oh, here you are. Yeah.
Okay. The question, if this method can really help to overcome the deep sorrow and pain for the hostages.
No.
On the other hand,
of course not.
This is what it is in the present. What will it help if I'm in deep sorrow and pain? It will not help anyway.
That is true, but we're still human, isn't it? And again, these methods and all this, it doesn't mean that you're never sad, but you're not lingering on it. You're not carrying it around with it and spread it all over and onto others, and you don't see the good things anymore. You see, there's nothing wrong with in the spiritual practice to feel sad. Sadness is a good thing because it says there's something wrong, right? But then again, then be realistic, as you say. Then it's the other part to say, what does it help to feel sorrow? Yeah. So again, this is a very personal thing. You have to see. I think we know that maybe some of us, we know these families. We feel how they feel, but again, it's because they're Israeli, because they're Jewish. Maybe some other parts of the world, there's hostages. Maybe we heard about it, but we don't care so much. There's not this deep sorrow. So again, it's because, I think also the demonstrations, I know that, people demonstrate because they want the hostages to be free. But I think personally, but who am I to judge? I'm not Israeli. It should really be paired, if they want a ceasefire, also thinking about the Palestinians. Yeah, for example. But I don't want to go into politics. It's very big questions, that one. And also, as I said, I don't know, but to feel sad and to feel sorrow and to cry is perfectly okay, you know. But then the thing is, if you look at Buddhism, we have a very clear explanation. This is samsara, right? This is wherever we are in samsara. It's like carrying a thorn bush on our, or maybe a better example, being in samsara is like being in a huge prison. So there's different categories. Some are 5-star cells, and some are really rotten, you know, actually no star cells. So it depends where we end up. There's no judge, okay, that puts us there. It's our karma that puts us there. So sometimes this is what we call samsara. Samsara is meaning being under the control of our negative emotions. They control us, we don't have control over them. That is samsara. And again, after death, we take on another body and another mind, and it just continues. So wherever we are, sometimes it's very comfortable, it's very beautiful, but it's impermanent. It will end, and we don't know how our next cell is looking. And even if it's a 5-star hotel, if you have no freedom to leave, you lose your pleasure. And I can give you a good example. I was in Tahiti. You know, Tahiti is for many people like, wow, Tahiti, and it is very beautiful, of course. And then this volcano in Iceland kind of broke out, and the planes didn't go anymore. So people were forced to stay there. They had absolutely no more joy, even though it was still the same place. When they were staying in the same place, having the freedom to leave, or having to leave, they were sorry to leave, because the vacation was over. When they could not leave, the whole pleasure was gone. So this is what I mean. You see that then we have the only alternative that we have is to understand reality, to understand that because things do not exist from their own side, they function, they can exist, and to really understand both sides. Things are empty, and because they are empty, they also function, they appear. Right? So as long as we don't understand this, we can be as ethical as we want, we can be as vegetarian, vegan, non-violent as we want. We will still have things that are not, we don't like. So it's like with this thorn bush on our bare back. No matter how you move, backwards, forwards, left, right, it still hurts. Do you see what I mean? Okay. Then, now, Sohar.
I think this was a sufficient answer. I was going more or less with the topic that David raised, because I think the times now are very much extreme in questions of empathy and pain, and since we're talking about rejoicing, yes, I think particularly now with the war, with the Palestinian casualties and demolition, with whatever is happening beyond the border with Lebanon, I mean, there's so much destruction. So it's a big test how to face it if one wants to remain a feeling person, a feeling being, and still consider, you know, the aggregates and whatever make us up, and wanting to play down whatever constructs our feelings and reactions to things. But it's too much of a challenge right now, especially since as Israelis we're very much programmed into identity components which are very emotional, which comes, you know, dates back to Jewish experience previous in the diaspora. So
you carry a very heavy load, being Jewish, being Israeli, very, very heavy. A very, very heavy inheritance that you keep carrying along with you. It's true. You're right. It's very difficult. I do understand. I mean, I do understand. No, I don't understand, because I'm not Jewish and I'm not Israeli. I know you well. I know you are very emotional, and I appreciate that very much. And so, yeah, what can I say? May this stop really soon. But again, don't forget, even if all this stops and this becomes like Switzerland, being very friendly with the neighbors, even though, you know, they had to change the border, Italy and Switzerland, because the glaciers are melting. So the border is not the river changed. So they gave a little bit of Italy to Switzerland. Nobody fought. Everybody thought that was very good. Can you imagine this happening here? But it can happen, right? But still, also Swiss people also have problems, you know, even if their kids are not getting stabbed by some crazy Chinese person. This is really good to understand the name samsara, the nature of existence in samsara. It comes out of suffering, it is suffering, it leads to more suffering. And maybe the word suffering is too strong. Dukkha. Dukkha means kind of, you know, very easy to be stressed, very easy to be frustrated, very easy not to find what we want to find, very easy to find what we don't want to find, very easy to lose what we are attached to, and all these kinds of things. But we still have moments where we can rejoice, and this is this section where I rejoice in the good actions, or how does I confess all my negative actions since beginningless time, and I rejoice in the benefit, of all, anyway, the good actions of all, there we go, virtue.
Virtue.
Oh, thank you. And I rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. So the holy beings, we appreciate they finish the path, right? So they can serve as examples, they can guide us, they can teach us. Me, I have to rejoice that I'm interested in this. I believe in my good potential. I put effort into developing that good potential. I put some effort in reducing to do negative actions. I put effort in creating positive actions, and that's good enough. And we rejoice, right? And we rejoice that we have, at the moment, even though the government is not the way I want it, even though the situation is definitely not the way I want it, I still have a precious human rebirth, and I can give my life, even in this difficult situation, meaning. I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you all know Viktor Frankl. Yeah, okay. He's one of you guys, come on. And last weekend, I was in a palliative care kind of conference, and so many times the name of Viktor Frankl was mentioned for people who are about to die, you know, if they can look back and say, my life had meaning, or just like me, I was so fortunate, I had such a good life, then going is not such a big problem. So whatever meaning, don't come to me and say, oh, but I don't have any meaning, what can I do? I don't know. You will have to find out what makes your life meaningful, right? I don't know. I'm not a Buddha yet. It will come maybe. But, you know, thinking, work, just going out of the house and in the morning just thinking, I do that once a week, unfortunately, only once a week, because that's when we do the Medicine Buddha practice, to really explicitly say with words, today until everybody is, from today until everybody is enlightened, may everything I do with my body, speech, and mind be of benefit to others. The aspiration is set, and then of course I forget. But at one point, maybe I will think this spontaneously. Yeah, we will maybe do a reflection then on this. But I have to finish with the 7 limbs anyway. I want to. I don't have to. Nobody is telling me what to do. It's like I want to finish. So, okay, the rejoicing, very important, but not at the beginning, but kind of in the middle. So we play with the mind, right? After the confession, where the mind goes down a bit, and it's okay that the mind becomes sad or even, uncomfortable with seeing that, shit, I'm still doing quite a lot of negative actions with speech and with the mind. But I want to change that, and I will change it. It will take time, that's fine. I give myself the time, but I will not give up. Maybe this is a good one also. The devotion. I just keep going, whether it's successful or not successful. We're reading this sutra since the beginning of the war. Like some people say, oh, but why are you still reading it? It doesn't work. And I say, this is why we're still reading it, because it hasn't worked yet. And also reading the sutra is not to stop the war. I mean, how can you be so naive to think that 2-3 people sit down and start reading a sutra will stop the war? Of course not. But it will help the mind not to feel useless, But if you expect a big result from that, and there is a big result, I think, after having read it for so many times, personally, but it takes time. You have to keep at it, and who has the patience and the time, I'm really happy that I made the decision to read it also, even if it's not popular, it doesn't matter. I don't mind. I see that for me is a great benefit. I don't know Orit. Orit is happy anyway, so then she doesn't need to have much benefit. No,
it is. I would not, I told you, I would not have done that if it would not. I mean, I'm not doing it to benefit for myself. That's the point. So it's very good for me.
That's the only thing I knew to do at that moment when it started, because everything was covered, right? Leora Price and other people, I think Chaya and other people, they opened up so people could come and tell them their problems. And they had these discussions at the beginning. Yael Shalev, I think also, do you remember? Right? And then there was Tara practice every day for a while also. So that was also covered. And then there was Yaki teaching and Kelsang Wangmo teaching. So I thought, I don't need to do any of this. So I read the sutra. This is the only thing I thought I know how to do, and I can do it. And so I did it, and we're still doing it, and we keep doing it. Maybe until I die, I don't know yet. We'll see. But anyway, as Orit was saying, if there wouldn't have been a war, I would never have dreamt that I would read this part of this sutra every day, if I can. Sometimes also I cannot, because I have other things. But, I would never have thought that, in addition to my 2 hours practice. So it's like, I can't say I'm very grateful. But I see now, it's only now I see the benefit of it. By the way, if anybody wants, when this finishes, we make 10 minutes break, 15 minutes break, and then we read a part of it. But don't expect to understand anything, if you participate. Don't expect it to do something drastic to you. It will not. It's just, if you can find some meaning in trusting, for example, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, when he says, this is very good to read, to recite this at the time of war, and then we just do it. Sometimes it is this kind of blind trust, but you don't have to. If you get negative, then, please don't, The main thing is that it's being read every day since the 8th of October, not the 7th, but the 8th. So yeah, so like that. So then the rejoicing then is like the next 2 limbs, they are a little bit Buddhist, not just a little bit, they're very Buddhist, because which sutra? It's called the Golden Light Sutra. The Sutra of the Golden Light. So you can find it on the DFI website. There's an explanation, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's commentary, and also you can download the sutra, and if you want, you can participate when this is finished, but it's a bit much, I do recognize, because we've been on this the whole day already. But that's my contribution, and for to maybe change something in the conditions, in the energy that is there. Otherwise, not doing anything, that for sure doesn't help. That doesn't change anything. Then, okay, so the next 2 sections are requesting the Buddhas to remain, meaning to always be present we don't have to request them to do that because they are always there, but we forget. We forget that we would have access to the Buddhas all the time. And having access to the Buddhas means I also have access to what I really want, which means liberation from negative emotions and wrong views, and on top of it, having developed everything that one can develop, meaningful awakening. Yeah, so having access to the Buddha, connecting with the Buddhas connects me with my own potential that I have and reminds me what I actually want. So please remain until the end of cyclic existence, but there is no end to cyclic existence. But again, you know, this is Buddhist jargon. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence, and there is no end of cyclic existence. It sounds contradicting, it's not. And turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. So we're requesting teachings. So you see, even though if I am too lazy to do physical exercises, if I would ask somebody to show me physical exercises, I would do them because I asked for it. If somebody just comes and throws me and tells me you should do this and this and this, as I say, I don't do. Right? So this is why, not that the Buddhas need to be asked, that they will kind of continue to teach us, but we from our own side, we need to be sure that we want the teachings. So again, very skillful. And it said that doing these 2 sections of these 7-section practice, it purifies a lot of negative karma, like asking the Buddhas to stay until samsara ends. It purifies the negativities that we have created with criticizing the teachers, criticizing the Buddha, criticizing the methods, criticizing the different vehicles, and then asking for them to teach. It kind of purifies the blocks that we have towards certain practices that we say, this I like and this I don't like. So it's kind of purifying hindrances to be able to take these teachings, to understand them, and then to put them into practice. And then the last one is I dedicate all my merits to the great enlightenment, meaning I dedicate all the merits that comes from this. I'm not keeping it to myself, as Orit was saying. You know, if I would have to read the sutra just for me, I probably wouldn't, but it's for the benefit of all. So then we dedicate this, all the efforts that I'm doing with my Dharma spiritual practice, may it benefit everybody who meets me, everybody who sees me, everybody who thinks about me, everybody who talks about me, who talks to me or hears me or whatever. Yeah, this also is a very beautiful mind state. And of course, we have this wish, I have this wish, I go out of the house, but I'm not always acting upon that wish. But slowly, the more I become aware of it, then the more, you know, again, firing and wiring and neurons and the whole thing. If we believe in this, it's sometimes easier to believe in science than in Buddhism, then we see whatever we get accustomed to, then whatever, you know, then this becomes easy, right? So I was talking to Inbal yesterday, and she is in a very good state because why? She's very busy. She doesn't have time to sit down and think about the future. She's from Enapsor. So she has 3 kids, she's very busy, she's doing yoga class and this and that, and she's in a good state because she has something to do. She's not running away from things. She sees the situation and all this, but she's actually doing quite well. And we were talking about her dad, because he had to move from Tel Aviv to this moshav. Can you imagine? Somebody who's been living in Tel Aviv his whole life then has to go to a moshav. So he wasn't very happy, but he got used to the situation. He goes to the Moadon 4 times a week. In May, because I was there in May, he said kind of, oh, no, I don't want to go there. Oh, only old people there. Now he goes 4 times a week very happily. So please trust that thing. Whatever you get used to becomes easier. So it's our choice what we want to get used to, isn't it? Okay? So those are the 7 limbs. Shall we go maybe through them again? First one is, yes, it's called prostration, but it's more showing reference. Showing reference is such a beautiful mind. is the antidote to arrogance, right? Showing reference that to see, I can not do this alone. I need others to help me with this. Second one is making offerings, unlimited offerings in your mind, as we were offering the beautiful flowers. And, Rakefet was going even further and started planting some. She lives in Jaffa. So that's very good, We're not naive and thinking, I'm visualizing that everybody will be peaceful. Of course not. But it helps our mind to be more open. So don't kind of mix up these two things, And then we confess so that we can be free from shame and guilt and fear also. Yeah, because doing negative actions creates a lot of fear. And then rejoicing, very, very important to think about, just to sit down, we'll end like this. Just to sit down and think, I am a good person, no ifs and no buts, because everybody's nature is goodness. And this is why everybody appreciates when people are good to them. Nobody appreciates when people are violent to them, right? Except for the ones who are perverse and pay money to be beaten up. But why do they do it? Because they want to be happy. So again, the motivation is to be happy. So we rejoice, then asking the Buddhas to stay and keep teaching. We create the link with the Buddhas. We remember that they're always there. It reminds us, my goal is I won't give up until everybody else is enlightened. And that's the kind of the dedication, right? So that, do you think you need outer conditions to be able to work with your mind, to apply methods to make the mind more peaceful and more open and this and that? There's so many methods to do that. And then you have to think whether it's worthwhile or not. I mean, this is your choice, isn't it? Or we can give up and say, okay, that's it. This also we can do. We can do many things. Okay, so that's basically it, As I said, I had no clue that I was going to talk about the 7 limbs until this morning when I was doing prostrations. And I'm quite happy about it because we don't speak about this very simple practice often enough. And on top of it, we might say these 7 lines, but we're not thinking about them, and then they don't have much impact. But they're so powerful, and it's the best way to purify negative karma and to create positive energy. If you do it and your mind is there. Please remain until cyclic existence, yes. Here's the sutra also, right? Please remain in psychic existence, turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. Enlightenment means everybody free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And it's possible, but it takes a long time, but it's okay. We do have the time. We don't need to rush. Okay. Do you have comments or you want to say something or objections or? Okay, wow. Are you dead?
No, I would like just to thank you. First of all, for coming to Israel in these times, and especially for this teaching. It was a precious time of having the medicine of the Dharma, which is the main help in these days. Thank you.
For us, right? For us, this is the medicine, is the Dharma. For somebody else, might be going to the beach. For somebody else, it might be, don't have so much forest here. In Switzerland, to go to the mountains, to the forest, to jump into cold water, to go to the sauna. I don't know. You see, it is your responsibility to find out what is kind of not too addictive, because, alcohol also works. Medicines, chemicals also work, drugs also works to calm us down, to make us more spacious. But you'll have to see maybe the side effects and, look at the side effects and really, as we said at the beginning, listen to these methods, to people who teach them to you. Think about them. Is it applicable to me? Does it appeal to me? It has to appeal to you. And is it feasible? And if it's feasible, then okay, what do I do now? And then just go ahead, right? But it can be anything. I'm not saying the Dharma is the only medicine. Yeah, for me it is the only medicine, for Leora also, but at the moment, because the situation is so difficult, you have to find something that works right now, right? So if you've been practicing long before this whole balagan started, then of course, this is you understand, this is the only way, there's no other way. But if you start now, you haven't had any results yet, then good to still continue, but also to find methods that you have to get more results, to open up the heart, to become spacious. Maybe just this one sentence, mind is spacious, and to try to feel it, and then to have thoughts or actions that give you some experience. Because Buddhism is an experiential vehicle. You have to experience something, otherwise what's the point? It's knowing it intellectually. It's nice, yeah. You might become a degree or something, a PhD or something, but if there's no effect, then what's the point? Okay? No? Okay, so the day.
Thank you for support us. Dear Losang, thank you for your support, being with us and teaching us.
It's really
special for us.
Yeah, okay. It's absolutely not a problem. As you know, I like to come to Israel since many years. I like you very much. Also, everybody, we created strong connections, which I value very, very much. So I don't see people are asking me, why are you going to Israel? And I just asked them, well, why not? I mean, it's like, why not? I can die in Switzerland. I can die anywhere. And if I can be of benefit, then of course, wonderful. If not, I'm just, before I came in May, I was in doubt because I thought, gosh, come on, who do you think you are? You've never worked with traumatized people. There are people who have had huge disaster and, the sutra, we will wait, we'll make a break of 15 minutes, then 2:45, we start reading it. So, and then I had a dream, which was quite comforting, and I never dream of my master, usually, because I thought I might do more damage, because, Dharma teachings can be quite strong. It's strong medicine, so you need to be able to take it properly, especially the karma thing. And then I had a dream of my teacher, which I never have. And he just said, Dharma will not harm. So then I thought, okay. And then that gives me the confidence. Now, don't think I'm clairvoyant or anything like that. It's my own mind who probably produced it. But it was comforting because me also, I need to, about the situation, funny enough, I'm not afraid. Funny enough. I'm more afraid that I'm doing more harm than benefit. This is because being Swiss, growing up in a very safe environment, as I said, not having hurt in a very bad way, not being abused or anything like that. So I don't have much experience. I only have experience in Dharma. So this is why also I quite like to do practices where I have a sadhana and I know what I have to say and we do these things, what we will do in Haifa then. Its place. But if it was of some benefit, just to have a nice chat, to connect with each other, to see that we're still there, that's okay, isn't it? Do I want to use this link? Yeah, I think if it's okay for the Dharma friends, I just leave it on because it doesn't say anything on the website. It's in the afternoon. And and then tomorrow